Particular picture, according to a very well-placed palace source, was very much, well, distressing, heartbreaking, and more than ever, something of a personal snub. As ever, let me explain. Hi, good morning. Nice to see you. How are you today? And as ever, thank you so much for joining me. We'll have a lovely wave. Yes. By the way, I don't know about you. Over here, we're having to gear up for doing our tax, for the early part of next year. And I didn't realize this until I was looking it up. But on this day in 1931, Al Capone was jailed for 11 years for tax evasion. Al Capone, there's a name. I mean, what a big name he was on that time. I've just pointed this out, of course, because if you don't see me for a while, I'm joking, of course, I don't earn that much money. But it's interesting, isn't it, when you think about the tax thing? Everybody puts that up. I noticed the other day as well, a pop star over here from One Direction, Liam, sorry, from One Direction, was fined for speeding, a road offence. And it doesn't even get really a headline anymore. Years ago, that would have finished a career, wouldn't it? Just proves how complacent we've got. I know, absolutely, do you agree? Now, back as ever to your breaking roll story of the day. This story, this picture is really heartbreaking according to a very, very well-placed source inside the courtiers around His Majesty King Charles III. You can understand it, I mean, when you look at it, there he has tried his very best to offer the alleged olive branches to his youngest son and, of course, a woman who was gracious enough to walk down the aisle on her second wedding day at St. George's Chapel in Windsor. No two ways about it. He has nothing to reproach himself for. He's done nothing but kindness to this couple. But why is this particular picture upsetting? Well, according to that source, it's all really about the fact that when you look at it, they basically said that, they couldn't come to his historical coronation on May the 6th earlier this year because she had to stay behind to look after the children. Clearly, that's not a priority anymore. When you look at it, there are no children. We've been told that they were not travelling with children. And let's not forget when Meghan rocked up late for all the attention at the recent Invictus Games in Dusseldorf, Germany, she was delayed because she was getting hamburgers and milkshakes looking after children. But then after that, they zipped across for a private holiday on a private jet. Now, you might think, well, what does this really matter? What this actually says to His Majesty the King and the Queen and senior members of the monarchy is, we really just don't care. The excuse just wears a little bit thin. Now, while you might wonder, well, does it really matter to His Majesty the King? Obviously, he doesn't want to go through, as he pointed out, his final years in this terrible situation. He thought he built a very close, loving, caring friendship and bond with his youngest son. Seemingly, since getting married, that all deteriorated. Famously, as we know, Harry lost his father too. That was the headline. But as that source told me, a picture like this really does say 1,000 words. They can fly around the world, minus the children, obviously not caring about how they feel or indeed how this would affect his father. Seemingly, someone has a grip on Harry far greater than the loving bond of his once royal family. And more importantly, as I say, a picture like this says everything to the family. Harry and Meghan are doing their own thing. They don't really care whether they hurt or offend or play with people's mental health, while all the time preaching to the good and the great about how much they care and how much empathy. Well, how much empathy have you really got, Prince Harry, for your father? You came over to London and you couldn't be bothered to go and see him. This picture, according to that good source, says everything. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.